Hi guys, so in today's video I want to talk about the most common mistakes that young filmmakers out there make. And to help me out, I got Rafi.
Hey guys, I'm Rafi. I'm a director. I've been doing short films, music videos, finished a feature, but you should pay attention to me because I've been yelled at by Spike Lee. And I've done everything. I've held a boom, I've been a PA, intern, all the way up to director now, so I have a lot of stuff to say.
Gear Geeks. This is for all of you guys out there that are spending way too much money on gear that you really shouldn't probably be spending on, that maybe you should be putting into the actual production of the film. And I know a lot of you guys out there, you're letting that sort of stop you from actually making the film itself.
Yeah, first of all, I'm a gear geek myself. I read the blogs every day, but you can't go too far with it. Filmmaking is about ideas and it's about action. It's about going out there and doing things. And the gear won't make you an artist, right? They're tools to help you get better at your craft.
I think a lot of times too, people just, I think they're kind of almost waiting maybe for the equipment to validate them or make them look more like actual professionals. And they're almost afraid to, go out there with just a simple DSLR, hand-holding the camera, and just, start filming something. They think that basically, unless they have those big cameras, big setups, dollies, cranes, all that stuff, and a big team behind them, that it's not an actual film.
Sometimes you can be super creative when you don't have all that stuff.
I think you can be even more creative. I think when you're, because I know that when I first started working on some of these bigger productions, it can be also intimidating. You get on there's a lot of people waiting for you, to kind of say what to do. And also there's so much equipment that you're almost like, you're not sure, where should I put this light or that crane or something like that. And I think it's, I don't know, at least for me, it's very freeing.
Yeah, there's a lot of magic that happens that way. Yeah.
So definitely if you guys are, if you're one of those guilty of, of being obsessing about the gear out there, stop it, pretty much like I said, just go out there and whatever it is that you can get your hands on, just go out there and actually make a film.
Mental barriers. This is something that we all as artists and creative people have, is you don't think that you're good enough, or that someone is, I don't have the talent, or I don't have the whatever it is to like go out and do what it is that you want to do. And I think a lot of that is just like, nobody was born with the talent or the ability or the writing or the equipment. Everyone acquires that over time. And to me, this is meaningful. There's a book I think you should read. It's called Art and Fear. And the intro to the book, I'm not giving away the whole book, but the intro is this thing in an art school, and this sculpture teacher has people with the clay wheel, and he says half of the class, he does an experiment, half of the class will be judged only by making the perfect vase. You spend all semester, you don't have to turn in one piece of pottery that's the very best. And part B of the class, you'll be judged solely by how many pieces you create. So at the end of the semester, I'm going to bring out a big scale. If you've made 50 pounds of work,
so like quantity versus quality?
Yeah. And so he goes through the semester, everyone makes pottery, and the group A is tinkering and studying the best pottery ever, and group B is just working. And at the end of the semester, the best pieces all came out of group B, because not only were they studying like how to actually, we're just cranking out pieces, so they get better as
experience. Yeah.
So to me, the mental barrier is the thing that holds you back, that says, oh, I can't do that because I'm not Quentin Tarantino yet. Well, it's like, nobody is.
You have to get to that place.
Yeah.
And the same thing I think goes with when it comes to money. Like, I think that's just more of an excuse, people have, is like, oh, I don't have the money, or many people contact me, for example, and they're like, saying, Tom, how can I become a filmmaker when I live, in the middle of nowhere? There's a little town, a few hundred people live there. Nobody's interested in filmmaking. And yes, there's bad things about that, but I think there's also great things about that, because, for example, try shooting something in New York City. It's very difficult if you have no money. Versus actually being out there in the middle of nowhere, that allows you to shoot, pretty much anywhere, and people are, I think, a lot more cooperative. Like, that's why I go back, to where my family is in Canada, and I go back there a lot to shoot a lot of projects of my own, because I know that over there I won't have any problems, versus here, or for example in Los Angeles, very difficult for beginner filmmakers, right?
Yeah, I think any artist starting out, you use what you have access to, and that's, you add from there. So, like, to me, that's one of the barriers that's actually kind of a blessing in disguise, or can be.
Untrusting. So this definitely applies to all of you guys out there who are overly, being overly competitive and just, untrusting of other filmmakers, versus actually sort of embracing, I think, the whole filmmaking community and actually helping each other out, like sharing trade secrets, because those secrets that you think, are like, oh my God, only you're the one that came out with them, are really not secrets that, at the end of the day, it's just filmmaking. And if you came up with it, somebody else out there is also bound to come up with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been at like a film festival or a talk, or, and there'll be someone like, oh, I can't tell you my idea because my shit is so dope that like if I even tell it to you, then you might steal it.
And I think this applies whether it's, for example, stories like you're talking about, but even like, I've worked with a lot of other DPs that have these sort of little secrets, of like, oh, I use this special lens, and it's like, well, how special can that lens be? Somebody else, I'm guessing there's more than one lens out there like that, and somebody out there is using it, or like I said, they'll put a special filter, and they don't want to say what it is. And it's, like I said, at the end of the day, whatever you discovered, trust me, somebody else is going to discover it too. And if you're not going to share it, the other person will. And at the end of the day, you're just going to look like the asshole who basically didn't want to share the information. So I think you're better off sharing and also learning from other filmmakers, being open to ideas. And the same thing I think with stories. Like there's a big difference between just straight out copying somebody's film, like word for word or scene for scene, versus somebody just being maybe inspired, I would say, by another artist's work.
Yeah, and don't steal other people's ideas. It's that simple. Like,
exactly.
Creativity is about building on what came before you, but you have to be open and share in order for that to happen, and you also have to respect that process that other people have.
There's like a fine line between stealing and just being inspired by other filmmakers, I think, and also sharing. So definitely stop, hoarding those trade secrets, share, and just, don't be so jealous, basically, of other filmmakers.
Passiveness. This is deadly as an artist, as a creator. It's called a creator for a reason. You make things, and you can't sit there with your hands in your pockets. One of the best pieces of advice I ever had was, I was interning. It was my first shoot, first or second shoot out of college, and I was standing there, and the producer of the shoot is like, "What are you doing? Like, get in there and shoot." And I was like, "What do you mean? I have the camera. I'm here." He's like, "No, you're being passive. You're letting it happen. You got to get in there and shoot." And that's the attitude we have to have. You have to go out and get the material that you want. You have to go out and put it into the camera. Otherwise, no one else is going to put it there for you.
Yeah, and also I think a lot of times people maybe are waiting to be really inspired by something out there, which is, it can be a good thing, but it can only be a good thing if you actually afterwards follow through. And all too many times, I think a lot of people just, they read inspirational, filmmaking books or watch a film out there that they really love, and then they kind of come back home and they're like, I'm gonna make a film just like this kind of thing. And it's good to get inspired, like I said, by other people's work, but you have to actually follow through with it. If that's all you're ever doing is just watching other people's work or reading, or just playing with your camera gear, and you're just kind of thinking of all the cool things that you could do, but you never actually do it, then that's, like I said, then you're gonna end up not doing anything. And very easily, I know, time can pass by. It starts with 2 or 3 days there, and then a week or month goes by, and then you realize a whole year passed by and you haven't shot a film.
There's a concept I have called a turtleneck filmmaker, and that's a person who wants to sit in their turtleneck and smoke their little cigarettes and say everything about film but never make a film.
Oh yeah. That's
Don't
like most
be
critics.
a turtleneck filmmaker. Get out there and make your movie.
Yeah, don't be so much of a critic. Fears. So this kind of applies to to everybody who I guess is kind of contemplating on becoming an actual filmmaker as a career. I guess there's a big difference if you're just kind of experimenting as a filmmaker and then versus actually stepping into it and kind of, like I said, letting that become your livelihood, because becoming a filmmaker can be very challenging, I think, from a financial point of view.
That is like the biggest fear a lot of people have as well. I can get a job that I know is tried and true, or I can do this thing that's artistic or whatever. I think luckily we're in a time right now where it's very easy to be creative. You can go out, you can get a camera for not a lot of money, you can experiment on the weekends, but then there comes that point where you have to jump in. You have to say, this is what I want to do, and I think that fear of not doing that is what holds a lot of people back, because once you're willing to say, like, I'm trying to make videos, I want to do this, people know that about you, and they're like, oh, well, you know, here's the guy who makes, Tom makes videos, like, you know, can you help this person? And I think a lot of doors open when you kind of get over the fear of even admitting to yourself and to others that this is what you want to do, that I want to make films, and this is what I am doing. When that comes out, then it changes your relationship, and all of a sudden you've claimed it. You've staked out some territory.
Yeah. First, I think the biggest barrier is you gotta have to sort of admit to it yourself, and
you gotta claim it.
Yeah, you gotta step over that fear. And then I think other fears are also, you know, fears that have to do maybe not so much financially, but maybe just being, like, actually putting yourself out there when it comes to your work, because especially when you're working on films that you've written, you've directed, they can become very, you know, very personal. And when you're putting that work out there, or you just, you know, just when you're putting a lot of, you know, sweat and tears into your project, a lot of, you know, sleepless nights, and then you put it out there and then people just critique it, especially up here on YouTube.
Mishandling criticism. This is really key in the YouTube era and the Twitter, you know, people, a lot of haters lurking in the bushes. And what you have to do is separate the critique from what the message is, the note versus what someone is saying. So if someone's saying, like, you're like, oh, all your shots suck, they're too dark, it's like, oh, maybe my lighting's not good. You know, there's like, you have to find, if there's a message, quickly find out, is there a message I can actually take away from this? And if not, if this person is just BS, then just ignoring it. And so not getting emotionally tied up to it, but look for the actual note that can help you. If there isn't one, on to the next.
Yeah, I think I think the hard thing with criticism is that at the end of the day, it's going to be a negative comment or something negative somebody says. So that you have to kind of look past that negative aspect of it, and like you said, pull some kind of a lesson out of there, because like you said, maybe there is actually something that you can improve on. And then, you know, sometimes some people are just being negative. So if you look past it, I think, then you can actually...
Don't be a troll, and if you know somebody who is a troll, crush them, block them, ban them, or try and educate them.
Or just ignore them, and that's what I do. Cinematography in post-production. You know, trying to do or make your shots look really good in post-production when you're doing color correction or reframing or special effects. I think that's it's a very common mistake that I know a lot of filmmakers out there make. Like I said, they'll shoot whatever it is that they can capture on the day, and I think a lot of it comes down to out of the fact that when you're actually starting out as a filmmaker and you're getting, you know, you show up on the day of the shoot, it can be very intimidating, and things move very fast, or it seems like the day goes by really fast. And so a lot of times people, instead of sort of slowing down and kind of concentrating on getting a nice shots, they kind of just rush through it, get whatever it is that they can get, and then later on they're kind of editing the film and they realize that the shots don't look that good, but they kind of keep on telling themselves or the other people on their team, you know, that, oh, don't worry, well, it's gonna look good once we do the colors and all that stuff. And I mean, the truth is, if you don't light your shot properly, if you don't, you know, compose it properly, you don't pick the right angles, all those things, there's only so much that you can do with color correction. I think color correction, yes, can help, right? Mm-hmm. I think, you know, especially nowadays when you're shooting with these new cameras that have flat profiles and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, that I will bring the life back to the shot, but you can only do so much. If you have a bad shot that's just badly framed, badly exposed, or whatever, it's just not an interesting shot, then color correction is not gonna fix that.
Tom said everything. The only thing I'm gonna add to it is cinematography and post, you can't do it. Tom has a great video, actually, one of his early videos on his channel about composing good shots and using locations well. Just watch that video. He tells you, he already taught you how to do it.
Good tip.
Slow editing.
Like this right now. Let's take a pause and let's just, that's what we're talking about, slow editing.
Slow editing. A lot of filmmakers, especially beginning filmmakers, are overly impressed with what they do, whether it's oh, I got this great shot, and just the way he sets that glass down at the end of the shot, I'm gonna hold the whole shot. And it's like, bro, I don't need to see the end. I don't need to even see the beginning half the time of the shot. So what you have to do is put yourself in the editing process in the position of the audience, and once you give them the essential information, we don't care if your dolly ends up going through a bridge after that. Nobody, you know, like a lot of times we get impressed with our shots and, oh, I know that at the end this light just flicks off his glasses beautifully. And it's like the audience could care less about that. They want story, and they want story on top of story, and you have to deliver story at all times.
You know, there's a lot of films out there that I've watched where they have a great story for a 2 or 3 minute film, not for a 20-minute film.
Yeah.
But then you watch that film, that story that you could get in 2 or 3 minutes, but when you're watching it over 20 minutes, that same story that could be maybe great in 2 minutes, in 20 minutes becomes very boring, right?
Yeah, I have a note that I can't tell you how many times I've given, which is, you know, you tell a friend, it's like, well, you know, you have a 7-minute film hiding in the body of a 12-minute film. And, you know, they keep giving you recut on, do you see the new end, the new beginning? It's like, yeah, but did you cut those extra 5 minutes out of it? Yeah. You know, cut down concision will help you more than any other thing in editing.
Bad sound. There's nothing that, you know, gives away, I think, amateurish or just indie filmmaking as bad sound. I mean, that, you know, it's the first thing it's a big giveaway right away that this is like a low-end production. So
well, it's like people might even look at bad picture or shaky picture, but if the sound is bad, they just they'll walk out. You know, it's a no-no.
And I think, you know, I know like a lot of times people might wonder, but you know, how can you forgive, but let's say bad picture versus not sound? And I think it comes down to the fact that maybe, you know, you shoot like, let's say like the Blair Witch Project, right? That film was shot to make, you know, it was made to look like it was on purpose shot on home video cameras. So that's why it looked like a home video camera. If it just sounds cheap, people are gonna be like, well, that's a cheap film. Versus, you know, if the film looks cheap, but it sounds good, they're gonna actually sit down to see whether it's an interesting story.
In the opposite case, if the camera sounds like wind is blowing on it, then it's like nobody's gonna watch that.
Yeah. So definitely you learn those basics of good sound. You know, don't capture sound for your film with the onboard, you know, mic on your camera. Get a good, you know, shotgun microphone. I think is the first big thing. Yeah. Just capturing the performances, the actor's, you know, voice. That's the #1 important thing. So if you get that clean, the rest you can put in nice, you know, sounds from sound libraries, and I think that's it, right?
Yeah. Bad casting. When you have a bad actor, they tend to, you know what I mean? Like, like don't go for it. Like,
and then also, it kind of touches on the point with those long pauses or like just bad editing is, you'll sometimes, bad actor will force you to have to cut a lot of those bad pauses.
Yeah, right? they just want to dramatize every moment. It's like the moment he picks up that can of Coke is not a dramatic moment. He's taking a sip and he's walking to the next room. It's not, I'm so thirsty.
Unless it's a commercial for it. I know what you mean,
Yeah, so watch out for that one.
Yeah, and definitely don't hire me as an actor.
I once had a woman come out to an audition and she could barely read. And I was like, how do you put this person, how did she think she was gonna get in a movie? And like, don't you be the person.
Maybe she thought it was a silent part.
Her headshot was her wedding photo. I've cast friends and things, and I think sometimes if a friend is perfect for the role, it works. Yeah. But I think there are so many actors out there, there's so many people, and they'll shade that performance and really give you something that you couldn't have gotten with just your friend comes in and says a line and just waiting for lunch.
Yeah. Well, acting is obviously a huge part of, you know, having a good film. So if everything else is great, but you just have bad acting, which I'm sure some of you guys have seen in some even big Hollywood productions, it just ruins it. It just takes you out of the moment, versus a good actor really sells the moment, makes it look real. And there's a lot of ways to get actors, whether it's, you know, go to Craigslist, but like Mendy.com is another, like there's a lot of websites out there that have good, you know, way to connect with other filmmakers, actors, you know, basically, you know, to get resources to make your film. So that's it. Hopefully this video helps you guys avoid some of the most common mistakes a lot of beginner filmmakers out there make. And, you know, if you want to get more filmmaking tips and tricks and a whole lot of filmmaking tutorials, you know, you can find that on my website, which is tomantosfilms.com. As always, if you guys like this video, click the thumbs up, subscribe, and also check out Rafi's channel. He's an amazing filmmaker, and he's just starting out his YouTube channel.
It's called Rum Punch Films, and you can subscribe right here. And thanks for Tom for having me. And what I'm going to be talking about is a lot of the same issues. How do you take your idea creatively and get it out into your film? And so we're starting with the first video, What Can You Not Live Without? Tom is going to be my very special guest. Rum Punch Films, thank you very much for having me.
All right. See you guys next time.